No. My answer is no. Now, if you want to do it, okay. If you have done it and it's been good for you, okay. You'll notice I never advocate for this. Number one, I don't care about your repressed memories, and you shouldn't either. There's a myth. It's a very stubborn myth, very long-lasting myth. I think it's enforced by the way therapy and trauma is portrayed in films. Because, say, for example, there's a film. It's called Jacob's Ladder, actually. Have you seen Jacob's Ladder?
No.
That's actually a good movie. It's with Tim Robbins. He's a Vietnam vet. And in order to explore flashbacks, PTSD flashbacks in movies, we have to show them. We have to, like, there's an interior shot of a guy in a club with his girlfriend, and he's drinking, and there's people dancing around him, and the camera's like pointing at him here. And so you get this weird claustrophobic thing, and he's drinking, and the camera's too close, and he's doing this, and he's looking around, and he thinks he sees demons at the corner of his vision, and then the camera flashes away to like people dancing, but in the corners of the vision, there's like demons' wings and tails, and you can hear this sound in the background, and it's spooky, it's weird, it's frightening. And then it flashes faster and faster from him dancing to the demon's wings to him being in a jungle in Vietnam and doing stuff. And it cuts like that. So Jacob's Ladder is an example. And I'm not saying that's bad. I'm just like, well, what are you going to, like, if you want to make PTSD and trauma dramatic and cinematically watchable, what the hell else are you going to do? I mean, you could do talk therapy scenes like they did in Good Will Hunting, and that's good as well. It's a different way of doing it. But it's enforced, in my humble opinion, the idea that trauma, healing, and visual memory are intrinsically linked. And there's really no evidence for that. There's really zero evidence for that. So this thing, which we can see in the division between PTSD and CPTSD. What are the dividing lines? Well, one of them is like visual memory of a traumatic event. That would be classed as PTSD, and it should be singular. Singular doesn't mean it should have only happened once, but singular would mean, here's a real example. Like it's based on a TED talk. It was a Marine who came back from Afghanistan, and they couldn't stop him from driving his truck in the middle of the road. So he would be on the correct side of the road in America, which would be the right, disgusting colonials on the wrong side of the road. And then he'd drift into the center, and they're like, what the hell's your problem? And because in Afghanistan, they move away from the sides of the road because that's where the IEDs are. So what's the traumatic memory that's making him drift to the center? Well, he remembers the time that there was an explosion and the armored vehicle was flipped upside down, and there was glass shattered, and the smell of the fuel, people screaming, and, horror is the memory of the trauma. And that's intrinsic to how his trauma plays out. But actually, that division is kind of false. There isn't really a dividing line between PTSD and CPTSD. I continue to use the terms, but I know there's never PTSD without CPTSD. There's no such thing as CPTSD without PTSD. In a way, we're doing what George Carlin railed against. We're using too many words. We should still be using, and George Carlin, I believe, was right, we should use the older terminology and we'd be close to the truth. We should talk about combat fatigue or battle shock. Like, you're in shock, you're traumatized, you're going into shock. And it would be more useful. You don't need your visual memories. And so that was point number one, because it's physical. It's in the body, it's in the brain, it's in your hormonal system, it's within the hypothalamic, pituitary, HPA, adrenal axis, the HPA axis, and it's dysregulated. So your threat detection mechanism is physically dysregulated. There's a chance that your hippocampus might have actually shrunk. So your brain changes shape in response to trauma. Do you need to know your memories? No, I don't believe so. Repressed memories. Well, what? So then you get to point number 2, like go read the research on the actual published peer-reviewed research on this a bogey monster called repressed memories. It's weak. It's a weak psychological concept. It has very little scientific validity. And then the third thing would be to look at how easy it is to induce false memories in people. Sane people, sober people, people not under the influence of drugs, alcohol, psychedelics, or terror can have fake memories induced inside of their minds in a replicable way inside of about 30 seconds. Psychologists have done this again and again. So I am not attached to memory. I don't think it's useful. It's too easy for it to be faked. And I think there is a superstition, a cult-like superstitious attachment to repressed memories. I'm not saying that some memories aren't repressed. They absolutely are. We know this. We know this, that under extreme cases of trauma, your memories will get repressed. Maybe your body and your brain is right to repress them. Like, why are we fishing them out? What do you need that horror for? Maybe it's too horrifying. What do you need it back for? No, you need to heal the central nervous system that is here today. And that's all you can do, is the healing of the body, the brain, the consciousness as it presents itself here today. Don't worry too much about repressed memories.